Don't Date Your Coworkers, the movie. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. As part of my coverage of the 2023 Sundance Film Festival, today I'm going to be talking about the 2023 psychological thriller drama, Fair Play, which will be released in theaters on September 29th and on Netflix on October 13th. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. Fair Play stars Alden Ehrenreich, Phoebe Dynevor, and Eddie Marsan, and was the feature directorial debut by Chloe Domont. It tells the story of Emily and Luke, an engaged couple whose relationship begins to unravel following a promotion at the hedge fund firm they both work at. It's always a bit strange to come across a film that feels like it's from another time. Not in a period piece way, not in an anachronistic way, just in a reminiscent stylistic way. Genres, stories, plotlines, tropes, they all follow trends, ebbing and flowing in popularity through the years. So even though they may pop up occasionally regardless of the year, there are periods of time when they're at their peak popularity and seemingly everywhere. Film noir in the 40s and early 50s, disaster movies in the 70s, comic book movies during the last 2 decades now. Because of these trends, a movie that comes out during one of the popularity lulls can immediately make you think of a time in the past where movies of that type were extremely popular. And Fair Play is exactly one of those types of movies. Its plot is set in modern times, but its story, style, and approach would have made this film feel right at home in theaters during the 80s and early 90s. Fair Play offers up an intriguing mix of qualities. The office politics and deceitful power dynamics at play at the hedge fund firm in the story are reminiscent of other fast-talking 80s and 90s corporate thrillers. The extremely toxic relationship, fragile egos, and jealousy call to mind many erotic thrillers of the same era, usually starring Michael Douglas or directed by Adrian Lyne, and sometimes both of those things at the same time. It's a dialogue and performance-driven film that relies on the talent of its actors to keep its otherwise familiar story engaging. There are a handful of other characters who come in and out of play over the course of this film, but this is primarily a two-hander centered around corporate power couple Luke and Emily, performed wonderfully by Alden Ehrenreich and Phoebe Dynevor. What begins as a pair of subtle, nuanced performances quickly escalates into unveiled emotions, backhanded comments, and immense passion displayed through physicality of varying forms. Both Dynevor and Ehrenreich cover this emotional ground believably, making it easy to root for one and love to hate the other. Perhaps unsurprisingly, this is a film that's loaded with cautionary thematic takeaways. Secretive workplace romances, misogynistic corporate dynamics, fragile egos and threatened jealousy, toxic relationships, power dynamics, competition, manipulation, gaslighting, sabotage, consent. It's all touched on in one way or another here. And as uncomfortable and cringy as some of it gets, the themes themselves are all fairly worthwhile. But there's something about the approach that feels a bit off here. All the interactions we see in this office, and certainly the interactions we see between Luke and Emily, are things we've witnessed before. Not only in other movies, but undoubtedly in actual real life, too. There's something to be said about a film shining a spotlight on all of these concepts and themes, but we've reached a point where most people are already aware of things like this, so thoughtful commentary is needed rather than just awareness-raising highlighting. Throughout the runtime, the film changes up its thematic focus a bit, and it's clear that it tries to be a bit subversive in its approach, or perhaps its landing, but there's something about it that feels almost as scuzzy as the problems it's trying to address. Although the thematic components of this film are certainly pushed front and center, it's definitely still possible to enjoy, or at least experience, the film without feeling like you're watching a PSA or message movie. Partly because of the tight script, partly because of the aforementioned performances, and partly because of the atmosphere. This is a very tense film. The office politics, the toxic relationship dynamics, it all feels like one big powder keg waiting for a tiny spark. It's stressful and uncomfortable to watch throughout, making it even worse when things begin to escalate into more and more threatening situations. This isn't a fun or particularly enjoyable watch, but it is an engaging one. So even though I don't expect to rewatch it often, I am glad that the positive word of mouth at Sundance convinced me to check it out before the festival ended. I do think this would have done decently well in theaters, but Netflix feels like a good fit for this story. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number 1 is the performances. The story itself is pretty simple and familiar, so the performances do a lot of heavy lifting. Admittedly, the script is tight and the dialogue well written, but this could have easily been a very underwhelming movie without the right people playing the leads. Luckily, Phoebe Dynevor and Alden Ehrenreich were the right people. Not only do they have good, highly toxic chemistry with one another, but they also hold their own against each other, even as the power dynamics in the office and then their relationship shift. Ehrenreich especially has got that scowling grimace face down pat. The second pro is the atmosphere. It's not an atmosphere I want to stay immersed in for very long, but it really works for the story and film. It's tense and charged, both sexually and competitively. It's mildly uncomfortable at times, downright cringy at others, and somewhat satisfying at still others. The whole thing is just extremely stressful to experience, because you are experiencing it, not just watching it. On the con side, the biggest issue is the thematic approach. So the themes themselves aren't really the problem here, but rather the way they're used. This one touches on a lot of concepts and themes, most of which have been explored in other films, including many corporate dramas and thrillers of the 80s and 90s. This film has the distinction of framing things through a more feminist lens than many of those other movies, which works some of the time, but ends up being almost as problematic as some of the other films and storylines it's attempting to call out with its, at times, subversive approach. Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying Fair Play or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give Fair Play 3.5 out of 5 paws. It's a sharp and tense psychological thriller drama that explores power dynamics and the uncomfortable side effects of workplace romances. With a pair of strong lead performances, toxicity abounds as tensions rise and relationships crumble in this stressful and frequently uncomfortable film. I would recommend Fair Play to people looking for a corporate psychological thriller. It's steeped in relationship drama too, but has a bit of a late 80s, early 90s feel to its style. Definitely a good choice if you want a strong script, but be aware that it is an uncomfortable watch at points. If you liked Fair Play, I would recommend Wall Street. This is another corporate investment-focused drama with strong performances and a good script. The story is a bit different and doesn't tackle the relationship angle in the same way, but it touches on greed and excess while focusing on manipulative characters. If you want another performance and dialogue-driven corporate drama, you should check out Glengarry Glen Ross. This film focuses on competition, manipulation, and scheming among real estate salesmen, and features a stacked cast who help to elevate the original source material. And if you want some more relationship toxicity and tension, you'll want to watch Fatal Attraction. Perhaps the quintessential erotic thriller of the 80s, this story lacks the corporate component, but is a clear inspiration for the power dynamics at play within Fair Play. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen Fair Play? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie about a toxic relationship? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information on this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies. The way life should be.